Can you tell the difference between Lazard and Rothschild? If you want to shine with your friends, develop your financial literacy, or want to build a career in finance, this video is for you. When it comes to financial advisory and asset management, two names come to mind: Lazard and Rothschild. These are the oldest, most reputable banks and the ones that top all the rankings year after year, decade after decade. But do you really know them? Are you able to tell the differences between the two giants? For today's video, we take a deep look at both investment banks and we'll try to find out which one is the best. But before we start, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on any of our videos. Without further ado, let's start with the history of the two banks. Child & Co. began in the 1970s when Mayer Amschel Rothschild established his financial services business in Frankfurt. After 1810, Mayer Amschel's 5 sons settled in major European financial centers: Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples. Working in close collaboration, they became the world's best informed and most internationally effective financial house. Through the 19th century, the financial house pursued its expansion, supporting new innovations and new global markets. The business earned a strong reputation for identifying global opportunities. The business notably supported the development of railways across Europe and emerging economies such as India and Brazil. The 20th century saw then the expansion of the group throughout the world with the opening of a branch in the United States. Today, Rothschild & Co. is one of the world's largest independent financial groups, active in financial, asset management, private equity, and private debt. The firm has 3,816 employees, located in 64 offices across 43 countries. Like the Rothschild house, Lazard's history began in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Lazard's roots began with the emigration of 5 French brothers and several cousins to the United States. In 1848, Alexander Lazard and Simon Lazard founded Lazard Frères & Co. in New Orleans as a dry goods merchant. In the 1800s and early 1900s, the firm evolved into 3 houses of Lazard in the United States, France, and England, separately managed but allied. The Lazard partners advise clients on financial matters and enhance their cross-border network of relationships in business and government. In the 20th century, Lazard developed its reputation in mergers and acquisitions and expanded into new markets around the world, becoming a global force in financial advisory and asset management services. In the year 2000, after more than 150 years of separate management, the houses of Lazard formally united into a single entity to best serve their clients. In 2005, under the leadership of Bruce Wasserstein, Lazard became a public company, with nearly 2/3 of its shares owned by the current and former employees. The firm is led by Kenneth M. Jacobs since 2009. Today, Lazard is engaged in financial advisory and asset management. The firm has 3,179 employees and is present in 41 cities across 26 countries. Now you know more about the history of the two independent banks. Let's have a look at a few figures to compare the two financial houses. First, the size. In 2021, the firm generated $3 billion in revenue and recorded $800 million in net profit. As of October 2022, Rothschild & Co. market's capitalization stood at $2.7 billion. In 2021, Lazard generated $3.2 billion in revenue and recorded $543 million in net profit. In October 2022, Lazard's market capitalization stood at $3.6 billion. The international presence. When it comes to geography, Rothschild is more established in Europe and Lazard is stronger in the United States. Rothschild & Co. generated $2.4 billion in revenue in Europe, representing 80% of its revenues, and only generated $457 million in revenue in America, or 16% of its sales. Lazard's sales in Europe amounted to $1.3 billion in sales, representing 39% of its total revenues. The firm generated most of its revenues in America, as it recorded $1.8 billion in sales, or 56% of its total revenues. Now, the activity. Rothschild & Co. activity is structured into 3 segments: global advisory, wealth and asset management, and merchant banking. The global advisory activity includes M&A, restructuring, debt advisory, and equity capital market. In 2021, the segment generated 66% of the group's total revenue. With its wealth and asset management division, Rothschild & Co. offers investment solutions in a variety of asset classes to wealthy individuals, institutions, corporations, and public funds. In 2021, the segment generated 20% of the group's total revenue. The merchant banking activity of Rothschild & Co. consists of private equity and private debt. At the end of 2021, the division had $19 billion worth of assets under management. In 2021, the segment generated 14% of the group's total revenue. Now looking at Lazard. The group activity is split into two divisions, the financial advisory and the asset management division, which respectively contributed to 55% and 45% of the group 2021 revenues. In a few words, Lazard's financial advisory division offers roughly the same services as the global advisory division at Rothschild & Co. Same for Lazard's asset management division, which is equivalent of the wealth and asset management arm of Rothschild. However, Lazard is not involved in private equity or private debt like the French house. Now we know more about the two companies' operations, let's compare them per segment. Let's start with the financial advisory practice, which is mostly driven by mergers and acquisitions. In global mergers and acquisitions, Rothschild & Co. has surpassed Lazard in H1 2022. The two firms respectively ranked third and fourth in value in the Merger Market M&A Global Independent Banks League tables. Rothschild has been involved in the acquisition of OneWeb by Eutelsat, the acquisition of Tenneco by Apollo Global, and the acquisition of Pegasus by FL Entrepreneurs. Lazard, on its side, has been engaged in Vivendi's €3.6 billion tender offer for Lagardère in Resource Rights' $3.7 billion sale to Blackstone, or in the OI's BRL 20 billion fiber assets carve-out to a BTG Pactual consortium. The two firms have an outstanding reputation in M&A advisory, and Rothschild has topped Lazard in 2021 and in the first half of 2022 in terms of deal value. But it would not be exact to say that Rothschild is better than M&A, since the two banks are neck and neck every year. It is also hard to compare the two banks in M&A due to their different strategy. Rothschild puts a strong emphasis on the deal volume, while Lazard is more focused on larger transactions. Regarding restructuring, in 2021, Lazard ranked second in the value of operations advised behind Moelis. Rothschild placed fourth in the ranking in value, but first in the number of operations advised. Restructuring activities proposed by the two groups include lender negotiations, recapitalizations, exchange offers, and distressed M&A. This year, Rothschild is notably involved in the restructuring of Talon Energy. The French bank is advising Talon's creditors. Lazard was more active than Rothschild in restructuring this year. The bank was involved in a broad range of visible and complex restructuring, including roles involving Alto Mapo, voluntarily restructuring, Hexo restructuring plan, or View Entertainment takeover by its lenders. Overall, even if Rothschild has strengthened its restructuring arm over the last 2 decades, Lazard remains the benchmark in the sector. The firm led by Ken Jabab was indeed involved in the biggest restructuring deals of the last 2 years, with the advisory of the Californian energy supplier PG&E and the bankruptcy filings of the fashion house Macy's. Regardless of equity capital market, often referred to as ECM, Rothschild is ahead of Lazard. True, the US bank took part in some of the biggest IPO and recapitalization since 2020. It co-led the IPO of the FDJ, the French National Lottery games operator, the IPO of AENA, the Spanish airport operator, and the IPO of Saudi Aramco, the Saudi Arabian oil company. Nevertheless, Rothschild's expertise in the ECM remains unmatched. It has become impossible to do without them in transactions with tech companies. The bank has also become an expert in SPACs, and it has unrivaled links with the biggest private equity funds. Then, in the sovereign advisory practice, which consists of advising governments and institutions on the structure of their debt, Lazard outperforms Rothschild. Lazard has developed this expertise since the 1990s, contrary to Rothschild, who just created its division in 2015. Lazard's division has notably distinguished itself in several famous cases of sovereign debt restructuring. Argentina in 2002 with $100 billion of renegotiated debt, or Greece in 2011 with nearly $200 billion in renegotiated claims. Regarding asset management activities, Lazard tops Rothschild & Co. in terms of assets under management. And in 2021, Lazard had $274 billion in assets under management, almost 3 times what Rothschild was managing. Although their asset management division represents almost half of both companies' revenues, and both companies have well-established subsidiaries operating in the sector, such as Lazard Freer Gestion for Lazard or Martin Morrill for Rothschild, today the two companies are more recognized for their financial advisory practice. And now, the result of the match between the two financial houses. Before letting you know our pick, please give us your opinion on which company is the strongest in the comments. We, on our side, picked Lazard as the winner of the friendly comparison. True, Rothschild is an outstanding investment bank, but the bank does not have the same international visibility that Lazard has, with the biggest world corporations and governments. Rothschild might be involved in more transactions, but when the stakes are at the highest, we generally resort to the American firm. This is it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it and you found it informative. If you have other video ranking ideas or suggestions, please put them in the comments. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe. Good day to everyone.